In the coming days, the Supreme Court is going to issue the long-awaited ruling. 9 justices will issue their opinions on whether President Obama's sweeping health care reform is actually going to stand. This is going to be a major moment for anybody who steps into this office and holds this office. It's not just the personal freedom of Americans to make healthcare choices, but it's also a major movement and major moment for the president. The president is going to have the opportunity that very few presidents really have, something really monumental. He'll be able to say he respects the court's decision or not, and the whole world will listen. He'll be able to show respect to a co-equal branch of government or not. He'll have the ability to tell the American people what comes next or not. So far, it is my belief that this president has failed this test when it comes to the Supreme Court. He has verbally attacked the Supreme Court for past decisions. He has mischaracterized their rulings. He has distorted, he has fumed, he has pouted. But when it comes to the Supreme Court, I do not believe this president has shown leadership. So we thought we would help the president out a little bit. I mean, I know he's taking our advice. We decided to help out his speechwriters. We did some research at GBTV, and it turns out that President Obama is not the first president who has sat behind this desk or been on this carpet and struggled with the Supreme Court. There were others. Thomas Jefferson was angered over the judicial review of laws passed by Congress, and he wrote, "My construction of the Constitution is very different." That was it. In 1974, if you remember right, I was a kid, but I remember seeing Richard Nixon in 1974 sitting right here. "It's important to know if your president is a crook. I'm not a crook." You remember that? His whole presidency, in effect, was destroyed by a Supreme Court ruling on the Watergate tapes. He said, "While I am, of course, disappointed, I respect and accept the court's decision." That was it. His presidency was in the balance. He resigned a few weeks later because of that decision. Is there anything more personal than that? Even Richard Nixon knew that there was a great tradition of presidents petitioning the court. And then even Richard Nixon knew that there was a greater tradition of them losing. You see, this isn't a dictatorship. The guy who sits behind this desk is not a guy who can then come to you and say, "You know what, I've decided to make my own laws." That's not what the president does. He doesn't make laws. He's supposed to enforce them. The president has to abide by the decisions of the people, their representatives in Congress, and also the Supreme Court. They work together. Sometimes the president will disagree, but that's when the Democratic Republic part goes to work. You bring it back to the people and you see what they say. Even with this tension, both parties have had presidents sit here, and they have had presidents speak their mind, but they have generally spoken their mind with respect. They have been able to argue their case without stepping on the dignity of the justices. Ronald Reagan in 1983 sat behind this desk after a Supreme Court ruling struck down the state's effort to limit abortion on demand, and he said, "I join millions of Americans expressing profound disappointment at the decisions announced by the Supreme Court." He continued, "The issue of abortion has to be resolved by our democratic process. Once again, I call on Congress to make its voice heard against abortion on demand and restore legal protections for the unborn, whether by statute or constitutional amendment." That's how it works. You note the serious tone. It's upfront, it's unyielding, but it is respectful. Bill Clinton, gosh, do you remember when Do you remember when we thought the whole world was going to melt down because Bill Clinton was in office? Oh, geez, doesn't he seem like a dream come true now? Bill Clinton, in 1998, when the court ruled against him on the line item veto, he said, "I am deeply disappointed with today's Supreme Court decision. The decision is a defeat for all Americans. It deprives the president of a valuable tool for eliminating waste in federal budget and for enlivening the public debate over how to best make the use of our public funds." Clinton again, 2000. Court struck down a portion of the law. He said, "We plan to study the Supreme Court's decision." Disappointed, deeply disappointed. But we plan to study the decision. He said the issue has to be resolved by our democratic process. There it is. What will our president say? What will the man who now sits behind this desk say? These are all the words of the president's past, who understood that the Supreme Court is not a rubber stamp body. These men knew what democracy and a republic meant, what checks and balances mean. If they didn't like the result, and many of them didn't, they didn't go away quietly, but they understood. And here's the one thing they did not do. They did not try to undermine the court. They did not lecture the court. They did not misrepresent the issues or the ruling. In short, they didn't do, I'm sorry to say, what this president has already done. Even FDR, who is, I believe now the third worst president in our history. Well, maybe he's in the top 10. FDR was this close to a dictator by the end. And at most, he went to degrade the court by attacking it as 9 old men. Then he tried to pack the court with his own favorites. He spent entire press conferences complaining about the rulings. You know why this little door that we all think of JFK and John coming out, do you know why this is here? They originally said that it was there to hide presidential papers. It wasn't. It was there to hide the wheelchair of FDR. FDR sat behind that desk without that door there, in a wheelchair, and he compared the court to a horse that would not do the work of the farm. But even FDR understood that the Supreme Court has an important role to play in our democracy, a vital role. Here's what he says. In some ways, it may be the best thing that ever happened to this country. For a long time, that such a decision has come from the Supreme Court because it clarifies the issue. How true it is. Sometimes the democratic republic, sometimes this process that we have, freedom is messy. It is. Sometimes people would like to forget about the challenges of writing a law, making sure that it has support, making sure that it's constitutional. But the court doesn't forget. Congress has forgotten. President has forgotten. But the court hasn't forgotten yet. The court doesn't gloss over the little things. The court clarifies the issues and compares it to what they say our government can and cannot do according to the Constitution. That's it. It would be good for President Obama to heed these words and to show the nation that he can do more than lecture, quite frankly. He can do much, much more than lecture. It would be great if the president could show this nation that the man who stands on this seal every day can do more than lecture, but he can also learn as well.